Oh. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another awesome episode of Profiting with Nonprofits. We're up to episode 15, and we've actually hit over 1,000 downloads and subscribers to the show, which is huge because that means my show is really good. Who'd have thunk it? Well, I guess this is what happens when you get industry pros and leaders in the marketing space talking about nonprofit marketing and how you guys as organizations can use that stuff and that knowledge to your advantage. But in the meantime, I'm sitting down here for episode 15 with a good friend of mine. We actually did some work together very briefly for one of the organizations he worked at. And he is a very, very big face in the marketing world. He went from corporate to nonprofits. Now he's back in the corporate space again. And this guy knows his stuff. Well, I want to welcome Natan Cohen onto our show. And it's a pleasure to sit down and talk to him today. So Natan, what's good, homie?
How's it going, brother? Thank God. Listen, this is an honor and an opportunity to sit down with you, and I'm excited for it. Again, when you say a big face in marketing, it's mostly just size, not anything else. So happy to share perspective, happy to learn and continue the curiosity that I think is what drives us.
For sure. So, what's your story? What's your background? What's your story, and how did you get involved in the marketing world?
Yeah. So I my professional story, I would say, goes like this. Went to Yeshiva University, majored in marketing, didn't really understand what it was, got some taste of it, and fell sort of accidentally into a career on the advertising side. So on the paid media side of advertising, back at a company called MPG, Media Planning Group, which focused on the distribution side of advertising, really working in media and planning for wonderful companies. My first work for a company that I think no longer exists in the format that it does. So I worked on a company called MCI, which goes way back when, and a product called 1-800-COLLECT, and did a long stint in that world, and that basically learning about sort of what makes audiences tick, how to understand who it is that you want to reach, how do you connect with them, what channels are available for that success, and been lucky enough to stay involved in that world through incredible clients, incredible people, incredible teams, to really see that world digitized in some significant way, but at the same time still have incredible amounts of mass audience to be able to reach. So I've grown up in that world. I've been exposed through that world, both on the brand side and the creative side, and the media side, to a number of wonderful companies. I got to work on Verizon, Subway Restaurants, and Procter & Gamble, and BMW. I worked in-house at New York Life Insurance before going back to the agency side. So really just understanding the ecosystem that surrounds marketing and advertising when it comes to the paid media channels. I had the opportunity, as you mentioned, to work for a wonderful nonprofit, Ola Me, really the opportunity to go and connect my passion and the work that I was doing to a mission, a mission connected that's near and dear to me in terms of the Jewish people, and be able to do that. Now I head back into the corporate world, back to my roots. So I'm excited, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about sort of what I learned along the way and what I continue to learn.
That's very cool. So in terms, speaking on the paid side of things, and how you just mentioned that, you're coming from a world where you're dealing advertising, media placements, and now everything's been digitized. And, you and I both know this, a lot of nonprofits are very scared and skeptical to run and deal in the paid advertising space. There's the Google grant, but that's only one aspect of things. But there's Facebook ads, there's YouTube ads, there's anybody part of the GDN, any place, and a lot of organizations are scared to touch that. Now, why is that? Why are organizations scared to spend money to grow, to scale, to maximize?
Yeah, so I think, I really think at its core, listen, obviously there are individual reasons, individual organizations, not every organization is the same. I think this is the case, honestly, on both the for-profit and nonprofit side as well, but I think you're finding it more nonprofit as they grow, a little bit, which is what are we scared of, We're scared of the unknown, And so we're always scared of the unknown, no matter who we are, as people, as organizations. I think the majority of organizations don't really know what it is, They know as a consumer, they know Facebook, they know, their kids, they're watching their kids on TikTok, and they're watching all these things happening, and they know people are connecting over there, but they don't understand what it means to be part of that ecosystem, to deliver value in that world, and then to be able to extract value, for your organization, to be able to create, whether it's through brand or demand, driving that you're trying to do, they don't know how to work in that world. They don't know what it means, right? What do I have to commit to? And so therefore, when you don't know, right, it's it's scary. It can be scary. For me, it goes back to when I was working in the life insurance space. We talked to consumers about what life insurance costs, right? And people who had no idea would always estimate that it's 10 times more expensive than it actually is. And I think that's the same thing here when it comes to any marketing service or platform, or really being investing time, is when you talk to leaders in the organization about what's the resource, right? What's the risk and resource that's going to cost? And what's in their head, right, is always significantly multiples of more, risk and more cost and more resource than they think it takes just to step in, right? Sometimes people think you have to be perfect as well, right? If I don't do it exactly 100% right, and they don't realize this is all about learning, right? It's about learning what works for your organization. It's about building off of templates that other people have, started from, and it's about leveraging great partners, right? Like yourself and others who are in that space, who can say, okay, here's what a baby step means for you. Right? Let's just say take one audience and one outcome, right? And let's see what we can do there. Is it big enough? Let's do the discovery work to understand whether there's an opportunity here, right? You don't have to make these assumptions. We have so much data and so much information now to be able to say, okay, here's the best way forward, and just be a copycat. Honestly, until you develop, be a copycat as much as you can, because there's still so much value to be gained.
Well, that's the best. That's the greatest point, is that, Russell Brunson always says this. You're familiar with Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels. What's Russell's number one thing? He says, it's not, you just model after who's successful, copy it. It's not stealing. Model after who's successful. If it's working for them, great, do it 100%, because clearly they're having success with it. I have this conversation a lot with people about Facebook ads when they want to, kind of, as you said, baby steps. You want to introduce Facebook ads into their marketing ecosystem, and people are like, Facebook ads, it's not for me. I don't know why, I don't know. I said, you have to understand something. Facebook ads aren't as scary as you think they are, especially if you're running search ads and you have funnels that are working. You throw on some retargeting campaigns with all your data, and you get more people coming back to you. And once you explain that to people and you show them, you're leaving 80% or 90% even of your potential leads, your potential emails, your potential donors on the table by not doing this, and you spend a couple bucks a day on it, you'd be silly not to. And it's about the education and showing people that this kind of stuff isn't scary.
It's a great point, I think, when it comes to the way in which people think about their audiences, right? Because a lot of times you'll say, well, I don't need it, right? All I do right now as an organization in the nonprofit space is, we have the infrastructure, we work, and we don't do it ourselves. We support, other organizations that do. It's therefore all we need to do is the donor base, right? All we need to do is connect to a donor base or to a group of people and explain that there's a problem out there, right? And so people don't think about it in that regard. I don't need to work with a donor base. I have my person out there. They're going and they're meeting with donors, and what they don't realize, when we hear all the time, when you start doing it, I think you hear this 100%, like we do in the for-profit space. We talk about the board, right, and others, right? You want important people, right, or people that believe in your cause, to have that cause sort of reaffirmed by what they see in the world, right? And advertising and other ways in which you can communicate, and other ways they're going to see the messaging. There is nothing more affirming for somebody who just wrote you a big check than to have their neighbor, their relative, their child, or anybody else tell them, right, that they saw this thing that you support, right? That there's something else out there in the world that really reaffirms their decision to make that donation, to make that piece. So I think people don't realize that building the story, building that connection, reaffirming, right? Writing the check, sometimes it's not easy, but once you get there, that's only the beginning. You're probably in the middle, right, of that relationship and engagement with that person or that individual, or micro donations with a ton of individuals. How do you reaffirm their decisions, make sure they don't have buyer's remorse, right, in terms of what they just did, and cultivate them not just to be able to give in the future, but also to be able to be an advocate, right? How do you turn 100%. Them into sort of that loyalist that then is preaching your mission? And I think that's the biggest difference. Well, a lot of I think the elements are the same in terms of campaign building, in terms of connection and messaging, positioning when it comes to the for-profit and nonprofit space. I find that it's so much easier in the nonprofit space to help someone evangelize a mission, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard to get someone to evangelize, right? People love their BMWs. They love what audience are you evangelizing that to? Who is in the same position, right? Sometimes to do that. When it comes to a mission, I support this community. I support these people. I support this need that exists in the world. you're so proud of evangelizing that, right? There's no blowback for being someone who supports that mission. I think
Right.
nonprofits
And
need to take
that in
advantage.
turn, I was going to say that in turn brings more people into, once you're out there showing that you gave money to them and their marketing is working because they're making that connection with you, you go out there and spread the wealth and you tell more people to come join them. And then people, it's that affirmation that, it's like what we do with fundraising campaigns. We do crowdfunding campaigns. After the campaign's done, we still run ads. We run Facebook ads saying thank you so much for donating. Thank you so much. You made this, because it's that extra step. The difference between the threshold between for-profit and nonprofit is that extra step of saying thank you. Because at the end of the day, like you said, everyone likes the BMWs, but you don't need to be thanked for buying a BMW. Like, you don't need to be thanked for that. They're happy, they're shaking their heads, you bought the car. But it's that extra step, that thank you for, and showing the people that you want with that marketing, showing the people that were just involved in this campaign, showing the masses. This is what really makes the difference.
Yeah, I would say the for-profit brands are finding out that because the expectation is lower, right? You don't expect this anonymous brand to say thank you. That if they do, they go the extra step, right? And think about the consumer experience and thank them and give them something else, right? Added value, right? Service and other things, right? Especially when you talk about larger products and lifetime products that need servicing over time, right? Give that consumer something, you'll find that relationship grows even stronger. And that's how you get to a step of being a consumer or a purchaser of a brand or a product or a service to being an evangelist, right, or a loyalist for that brand, product, and services. A lot of times it's about the experience. Nonprofits, I think, are built to succeed when it comes to the experience because the work that they're doing is something they can showcase. And I think that's really something that they forget. It's always things that needs to be like, I'm only using this marketing, I'm only using these services to recruit, right? As opposed to tell a story, right? Tell the story of what you're doing so that when you do come, when that other person, when the other part of the organization comes to their door, calls them up, text them, sees, right, goes to an event that you're putting on, whatever it might be. If you have to explain who you are at that event, right, in that conversation, you're never going to succeed, right? But if they already know who you are, they've already seen you. Oh, yeah, I saw you so-and-so. My friend mentioned, oh, I know so-and-so is involved with this. You've already won. Now you're on to the next step without having to spend a lot of resources to do that because the story has preceded the conversation. And that's really where you want to be as a brand.
For sure.
And as a nonprofit specifically.
I mean, that's what I always tell my clients also. It's like, you have to show people, not tell them. No one cares what you're telling them. You have to show people, you have to highlight the accolades, highlight what you're doing. It's the customer experience, except on a different level, because you're trying to get them to connect emotionally and kind of cognitively with what you're doing so that they can feel like they're part of it. And one of the things that I actually do with my clients is, because my background was in sales and business development and doing these type of things, I come at these things, the marketing side, from a sales perspective. And how would I want to be sold? How would I want to have that experience? And we craft these campaigns, we craft these funnels and these sequences to that means of of that experience. So that way people don't feel like they're being sold, but they're being sold and they're being brought in and they connect and they're involved and they go, and it's really about a total immersion of what's going on. And that way you're able to connect on a different level with the organization than as opposed to just, this is what I do, this is what we do, here's our stuff, bye.
Yeah, if you want to be part of it, be part of it. If you don't, we don't care.
Yeah.
No, you do care. You really do care. And I think some people, again, my wife runs an incredible organization called Rifa Inu. That's it's a small nonprofit that focuses on mental health awareness. She, as a personality type, would never be comfortable standing in front of someone, right, and asking them for money, asking them for help, asking them for anything. But she knows, right, that needs to be possible. So she understands who in my network, right, can I connect with who. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that take advantage of your network, take advantage of your resources, take advantage of those things. To ignore it because you don't understand it, right, even if you know it goes on out there, right, to be a consumer in this world, right, and ignore the fact that marketing is valuable or can be valuable, to me, that's again, you're putting on blinders. You have to work harder to do that than it is. So now, once I realize it can play a role, and I'm just worried about what role it plays for me, all right, so now that's where you talk to your network, talk to people who have been there, understand that audience, right? What are you trying to do, and see if there's a path forward. And I think most people will find there is a path forward. Sometimes it's a small start, right? It's starting with one thing. Let's prove out the value. And other times it's a longer path to get there. And you have to start to have a conversations about, right, can we expect results? I want to do it, but I'm expecting my brand to now be, the biggest thing overnight, right? What is that conversation? What are those goals? What are the long-term goals, and can create those milestones in the short term on the way to that larger goal? Those are the fun conversations. That's where you really get to understand your audience. Am I selling something that people even want? Am I doing something people even need? Right? I can now refine that and really focus on that. And I think that's where you should engage those conversations anyways, right? Because I think you come out of this smarter and more prepared for the road ahead.
No, 100%. And, it's kind of like what you said before, especially now, the landscape for connecting with potential donors and growing your communities, your digital communities especially, has changed significantly. Like, a lot of organizations are not adapting to this digital marketing scheme, and they're still kind of set in their ways. And I found that it's what you said, it's the brand and the demand, and you need to be in the people that we're dealing with now, especially, who are these millennial donors and these millennials who want to be involved, these social justice people and these people who want to be involved in the action. They're all on the internet, and if you don't have a creative way to connect with them, then you're just leaving so much money on the table. And even it's mostly micro donations, but it's still money that you could be using for your organization. If you're not connected with them in the right way, it's a problem. What do you think about that?
Right? You knock on the door. I think one lesson that I learned, early on through experience, and not by my own. I was working, actually, my first role out of college. I was doing door-to-door sales. We were selling water park tickets, or we would sell anything, but that was this particular client that we were hired to sell for was water park tickets. I basically got dropped off in Sleepy Hollow, New York, and went door to door to businesses to sell these water park tickets, both either for customer use or for an employee, right? Employee benefit, right? You have a good employee you want to reward. And we went down this block. We'd spent like 6-7 hours walking all the way around, Sleepy Hollow and neighboring towns. And there was this block, and it looked like there was just like, it's one of those blocks where it's like there's probably like a trucking stop there or whatever it is, and it's just like a warehouse, and we're not going to find anybody. And I didn't want to go down, but the guy I was with who was training me is like, listen, you never know, right, where that next sale is going to come from. You never know what the next contact is going to do. And we walked down that block, and we turned in, and there was only one company there, but it was a maid company in which they were basically arranging for people to come clean your home, but there were hundreds of employees there. And we got there and we made 15 sales just at that place for employees and individuals, right, during that time. And I think what you learn is you never know. I think you never know where the next sale is going to come from, but that's changed now, right? With networking, with the digital experiences, that you never know if something is shareable, right? Or something, you don't know if that person who committed $5 or doesn't even have money to give on their own is connected to somebody else who can. So whether you're fundraising, whether you're trying to create buzz about your brand, networking is such an important part of that. And to network, you need to be able to reach people, right? If you don't reach people who are not already in your orbit, then anything you do is just going to stay within your orbit. You need to be able to grow, right? That's the big point, I think, of marketing, is to expand reach, right? You either want to expand that frequency that you have with the audience you already have, so you're more top of mind, or you want to reach people who you've never reached before, but are like-minded, right? Support your cause. And so I think that's what it's transitioned to. It's that next door that you knock on has become, who's the person that can network next? Do they have 5, 10 people, 20 people? And by the way, you can know that before you target them, right? I want to run a campaign. I only want to target people with X number of followers, right? So I know that I'm only talking to people who are quote unquote influencers or influential, right, in a space. So I think that the world has changed to the place where networking has become such a value. And I think that's one of the keys for nonprofits is, how do I uncover and how do I sort of put that network to use, either the people I already have or uncover a greater network that I don't know exists.
That's pretty awesome. So I guess as we wrap up, what is one takeaway? What is one thing a piece of advice you would give over to existing organizations or anybody who's looking to start an organization, and in terms of the marketing side of things? What kind of advice would you give? Seasoned advice.
So the two things I think I would prioritize the most, right? And I think for me, and there's so many ways to go and so many conversations, but I'll stick to things that I have experience with and I think are so valuable, are audience and data. I think that's the two things that you oftentimes have conversations. I have conversations with entrepreneurs, with people who are starting businesses. if you don't know your audience, right, don't know the intended audience that you're trying to get for, if you're not segmenting that audience, right, who are the most likely people to use a service, to need a service, to support a service, whatever it is that ecosystem is, right? We're working on a mentorship campaign, right? That means you have to know who are your likely mentors, right? And who are your likely mentees. Those are different audiences, right? And so
Right.
the most important thing is really, really dig in and get to know your audience, right? Not just the people who are going to use the service, but who support, especially if you're a nonprofit, right? Who are the people that who I need guidance from, right? If I need to talk to these people, so who are the people that should be on my board, right? Who are all the people that should be in this ecosystem, right? That to me is all part of the audience question, and it comes in place both in the operations and in the marketing. And the second thing is data, right? Because without data, you'll never know whether you succeeded. And I don't care whether you succeeded with a marketing campaign or just with an organization. If you only have anecdotal conversations and sharing, you need to be doing things that give you data and data points to set your benchmark, or if you already have a benchmark, to know whether you grew, but to understand where you're at. And I think most, we talked about why don't people set up. Most organizations, especially legacy organizations, don't even know where they are, right? They may know where they want to get to, but they don't have the data infrastructure or the way in which to organize that data to be able to tell you, here's where we are, right? In order to know how much they have to move to get to where they want to go. And I think that's the biggest thing, especially an advantage if you're starting an organization today, is use data. And that could just be basic things, right? Like CRM for your membership lists and the way in which you manage, right? At least let me know the people I'm interacting with on a daily basis and how I'm interacting with them. And it can be obviously much more detailed in terms of different audiences and how I market to them and what messages they're more responsive to, and right, what I lean in for, right? I want to spend money on the things that are going to be valuable and move. So to me, that's the biggest thing, is audience and data. Really, get those sharp, and the other things can be built around it. Right? The messaging and other positioning and other pieces can be built around that. But really, know who you're talking to, know who you're working with, and then know when you're being successful with them or not.
Cool. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially nowadays where everything is data driven, data oriented, and once you have all that information, exactly, it makes it easier for you to do what you need to do. Well, Natan, it was an absolute pleasure to sit down with you. I'm happy that we got to take the time to do this podcast. I was looking forward to this when I reached out to you before. I was thinking about who could be my next guest. And I was scrolling through my phone. I was like, oh man, let me hit this guy up. And because when we worked together, I really enjoyed the wealth of knowledge that you brought to the table, and the insight and the experience that you had from everything. And I think when we were working together, we really vibed pretty well. And I was like, I would love to do a podcast with this guy because I feel like he could drop a lot of information. So it was a pleasure having you here. And I wish you much luck in your current endeavors and everything you're doing. If you send me all your information, I'll put it in the show notes. So anybody wants to reach out to you. I know that you did mention once before that you also do some consulting for people who are on the side as a means to give advice and help people in businesses and stuff like that, pro bono kind of stuff. So if you give me some of that information, perhaps I can put that in the show notes as well, and any other things so people can contact you and pick your brain.
Yeah, no, listen, absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I think you hit the right word. Like every time we talked, the vibe was there because I think there was an understanding, like you talked about, the way in which you look at that world, the way in which you look at the funnel, the way in which you understand that if you don't have the data, here's a way to use data to get the data, right? To get that perspective. And I think that's why, working with you has been such a pleasure. Like, yes, 100%. I love talking to people and connecting with people, pro bono for sure. Help a couple people now, connected with the Jewish entrepreneur and others. So please, I'll share my information, and I'd love to hear from your audience or others. I'd love to do this again sometime.
Okay. My pleasure. All right, my friend, all the best, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.